welcome to Your Soul Wisdom, hosted by Yiannah, Ahmohr, Manokas. In each episode, we invite you on a transformative journey delving into the profound mysteries and wisdom of the soul. Join us as we explore a wide array of spiritual topics and sacred practices that nurture and heal the soul, from reincarnation and soul contracts to the enigmatic experiences of womb alchemy and astral travel. Our discussions are designed to enlighten, inspire, and deepen your understanding of your own soul's journey. With Your Soul Wisdom, nothing is off limits. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Your Soul Wisdom. Today, we are going to talk about one of my most favorite fascinating topics, which is mediumship. And today, we're also joined by Hai, who is a soul contract practitioner and an intuitive medium who moves to the rhythm of her own spirit, guided by a deep curiosity about life's mysteries. While most people are satisfied with surface level conversation, Hai dives into the profound, exploring the hidden connections that shape our existence. And as her friend, I could say that is absolutely 100% true. Her approach to psychic mediumship goes beyond spirit communication. It's about unraveling the soul's journey and uncovering the deeper why behind our experiences. For those ready to go beyond the ordinary, Hai opens the door to self-discovery and true understanding. Hai, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited, ladies.
Lovely.
Yes. Okay.
Nice.
We're going to kick off mediumship because this is a beautiful gift that Hai has and Lauren has and Kylie has and Amanda has. I do not embody that, maybe not yet. And neither does Rachel, although Rachel, with a CH in your name, you know you've got those 8s in there, girlfriend. So for sure you have that gift, right? We got that gift. We just have to open it up at some point. So I've always been so fascinated. And one of my first spiritual teachers, she was a clairvoyant medium. And so anytime she would say something, or she would have she would host these galas where she would do all night spirit messages. I always had to have the first front row, second seat in. That was my seat. I had to arrive early. I had to be in the space because I just think it's such a beautiful gift. And it's just I feel like it's such a healing tool and such a healing opportunity to be able to give your client. And so I've seen people receive messages about, children and people who have crossed over and all of that. And you just see it hit them in that moment, and the realness and the authenticity, the trueness of all the information coming out. You're just like, oh my God, what a beautiful gift. I've just waiting for that to come in. Okay. So, but Hai, why don't you tell us, for you, how did you step into that? Or did it one day you're just like, this thing is happening to me, I don't know what it is? How did it show up for you?
So I've always had this gift growing up. I remember my grandma's spirit passing, and I was probably in my teens. And as soon as she passed, I felt her energy just flow right through me. And I knew at that moment, I'm like, oh, that was her. And I just got goosebumps just saying that. And it was dead silent in the house. And then about probably 2 minutes later after that is when I heard my mom and my aunt scream. I'm like, oh, I just felt spirit just go right through me before anyone else even realized it. And it actually reminded me when I was younger, I would see spirit, I would feel spirit, and it would just scare the bejeebies out of me. I'm like, I want nothing to do with this. They would show up in my dreams, scare the shit out of me. And I'm like, no way. Can't deal with it.
Yeah.
Not going to be waking up to people at the end of my bed. Not
Correct.
doing it. Yes. Not doing it. So I prayed so hard to Buddha. I was like, I don't want to see it. I'm closing it off. And I completely forgot about it, to be honest. And it wasn't until I got pregnant with my daughter. And It was probably, I can't remember exactly the timing, but it was right before I found out, probably about 2 weeks before I found out I was pregnant with her. The shimmering of golden light came through the window. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is this like golden light? And I'm a complete skeptic in everything. I have to figure everything out like mentally first before I really accept it. So I'm like, I'm staring at it and I'm like, okay, I heard, I'm like, take in this moment. Like, look at the golden light. Look how it's sparkling all over the carpet, on your bed, like every which way. I'm like, got it, noted. Okay, now I'm gonna go search. So then I went searching. I opened up the windows. I'm like, oh, there's got to be like some crystal, like, I don't know, hanging out randomly out there. And at the time, we were on the third floor of our condo, and there's nothing out there, nothing to be explained. 2 weeks later, took a pregnancy test, and there she was. I was pregnant with her.
I love
And that,
That's cool.
yeah.
Lovely.
And so that's when I think really awoken to all of it again. And I just started hearing things more and seeing things in my third eye more, and I didn't know what it was. So I started secretly joining all these groups and started experimenting. And Sean would be like, my husband would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. Just scrolling. Don't mind me, and finally I told him like, hey, I think I might be taking a class. He's like, oh, what class? I'm like, oh, just a psychic class. He's like, time out, hold on. What are you talking about? So, only 20 years into our relationship, I finally came out to him afterwards, and he's just like, did you care to tell me before? I'm like, no, not really.
Wow.
So
But you said something really interesting, or one of the words you just said now was psychic, right? And so there is psychic and then there's medium, right? It's almost like two different levels. So people who read on a psychic level, and ladies, correct me if I'm wrong, but on a psychic level, it's really earth plane stuff. When you're connecting on a mediumship clairvoyant level, you're actually seeing your loved ones that have crossed over and they're communicating. So you're receiving information from the other side. Is that correct?
yep.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
Where does connection to the higher self fit into with that?
Yeah,
Do you know
I
what I mean?
wouldn't
Like,
have
is that
said-
an earth plane thing or a spirit thing?
Yeah, I wouldn't have said psychic is just earth plane.
Earth plane,
I
yeah.
would say, yeah. So I would say psychic is using your senses, but you're not getting information from someone who has passed over, right?
Passed over.
But
Yeah.
but a medium is getting that information from someone who is passed. And what my mentor taught me really is that all mediums are psychic, but not all psychics are medium.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that, because it's such the simple use of words completely change,
Yeah, and most people think it's the same thing,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
well, I've just realized I've never had a medium experience. I don't think anyone, if you ladies, lots of you have treated me, I don't think I've ever got a message from someone who's passed. I don't think anyone's ever told me anything.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
So just to put it out there for people watching, if they can't relate at all, welcome to Club Rachel. Lots of psychic information, but literally, I have never had a medium message. And boy, have I done a lot of treatments and had a lot of opportunity for that. So there we go.
Well,
Anyway.
you see, for me, you say that back in the day, I never had any until I think my parents passed, but purely
Oh, okay.
because, and so I really wasn't attached to any of it because I didn't know any dead people that close enough that I would want them to bring through a message for me, because people that had passed were sort of like aunts and uncles that really kind of like didn't know me. So for me, you bringing through a message for me, like where I don't have that connection to you. So I wasn't really connected to dead people, or to people that had passed, maybe I should say.
Oh, well, that's even
Can I
more
just
interesting.
say this?
Yeah.
Can I just say, so funny that you were talking about that light that came through. So that just piqued my memory of something that happened last night, right? Mine's just slightly different. So I woke up in the middle of the night. My husband was still awake because he couldn't sleep. So he's watching telly. Then he turned off the telly and went to sleep. And I saw this light above me on the ceiling. And I thought, oh my God, tunnel of light. I thought, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm thinking, I'm dead.
Turn left, look around.
Turn
Turn
left.
left, look
I
around.
swear to God,
Turn
I was
left.
thinking, oh my God, I gotta figure this out. And I said to him, what's that light? What's that light on the ceiling? And I said, what's that light? She goes, I don't know, maybe it's coming through the crack on the sides of the blinds. So he got up and went and looked, and I was like, no, look down. And I had my fan on charge, my little mini fan. It had like a little light that was going up on that had me panicking that I was going into the afterlife. I thought
Oh my
if I fall
God, that is
asleep
hilarious.
now, I'm dead. But anyway, I was just saying my light in the room was something completely different. But hey,
That is amazing. That's hilarious.
yeah, not so mystical after all. But anyway,
Okay, so
Go
so to that, right, the example you just gave, how do people actually know if they're receiving psychic or spirit information from loved ones or from spirit? Like, how do people know the difference between am I going home or
Do they identify themselves? Do these spirits identify themselves? Do they want to be known? Do they want to tell you who they are when they're giving you the messages?
Yeah, I'd love to hear everyone's experience. Like to me, when it's mediumship, it comes in at a much denser vibration for me. And I know everyone experiences it differently. Every medium does things differently as well. So, but when I'm connecting, it's like at a higher, denser vibration. So it's almost like this feel. And then once I connect into that feel, that's when I start visually seeing and then hearing, but it's still in my voice. Like it's not necessarily in their voice. People think it's like gonna be the person's voice, and that's what I thought when I first started too. And like waiting for it, and like Aunt Betty come in like with her voice, right? Like, and that didn't happen. I was hearing my own voice, so I had to learn that very quickly as well. But it's just this denser, and then also when they start connecting in, for me, I just start hearing things and seeing and feeling.
Okay, so when people say your mother is here, your grandmother, your grandfather, your uncle, is that because they tell you who they are? Or is it energetically you're feeling them? Because like my teacher, she'll say your level. She's like, I feel them on your level. So that's sister, best friend, cousin, one level up is parents, level above that grandparents, right? So I guess I never asked her, how do you even know that
discern.
information? Yeah. Anybody? Kylie, Lauren?
For me,
Yeah,
I think
I think it's
yeah.
Amanda.
For me, I think it's different. For me, they come in and they will sometimes say who they are, or sometimes I have to give a description or an energy of somebody or something or a situation that's happened. And then that person can identify with them. And I'm aware that sometimes obviously happens when people are doing sort of like what do you call it when my sister calls it platform, when you're on the platform kind of thing. So you'll give a description or a message or something, or you'll say, I've got the particular person here that is da-da-da-da-da. But I don't say that because I'm in a one-to-one situation. So I'll just know an energy has come in. Like I remember doing a numerology reading, and somebody's daughter came in. She hasn't had yet. And yeah, and so when I mentioned her, she said, "Oh yeah, she always comes around," because other people had seen her,
right?
And that. So but I was quite tentative. I was kind of like, oh, I've got a little girl here. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know what's going to happen or who it is. It could be, I don't know who's whatever. But so I can have future people come in that haven't arrived here yet, or ones that have gone.
Like What's the dynamic though? Like, is it the client that's pulling the appropriate person with the information that they need at the time? Or does it come from the other side that these spirits that have passed are desperate to tell the people still hear something, or is it a two-way street?
I think it's a two-way street. Like when I go into session, I always set the intention for the session to say, let the message be in the highest good and what you need to hear,
Okay.
and let the message be delivered that way. So I think it's also the intention that you set when you start off a session.
I've also
And I
heard,
think sometimes the spirit world have something to say. So it's not just about,
Yeah.
I just want to say it's not just about you. Because I've had people come in when because I see mediums. I have, since my dad passed away 11 years ago. And, so, speaking of healing, that was probably the most healing thing I could have done 2 months after he passed. That's the first time I actually had a mediumship session. But I've had people from high school that have passed away in car accidents and things just pop in and say hi, just because I'm open to receiving the messages. I want to hear from everyone, not like in my bedroom at night at the foot of my bed. But like I'm come and say hello when I put on my little light. Yeah, for sure.
you see,
So hold on a minute. So when you turn on your little lamp by your bed, they suddenly appear.
No.
Listen.
No, the little one in my head that goes, okay, I'm ready to talk to you. My metaphorical light.
I imagine
Lauren
Lauren stacking the dishwasher
by the bed.
Leaving that line.
see, even in group readings, like the events, where there's a medium, I've actually seen spirits come through to people and they're like, oh, your great aunt is here. They're like, oh, I didn't like her. I didn't know her. And so the medium's always like, it doesn't matter if you knew them or if they were good to you or if you loved them. They have a message for you, because on the other side, they're not holding on to that grudge. They're not holding on to that relationship. They're in pure love and they're just here to deliver you this message. And so what the message that was shared was, when you say, oh no, I don't want to talk to that person because I didn't care for them in the physical world, what you're really doing is you're shutting down the information and the message that can come through to you.
Yeah, but I kind of disagree that they're on the other side and that they're in pure love.
I agree with Amanda. I'm team Amanda.
Yeah, I do have something to say about that too. So let's go for this.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, then go on then, you guys. Go.
No, Amanda, you start. You started it, lady.
We'll finish it. You started.
Because what you find is that when people come through, they're coming through 9 times out of 10 or more. They're coming through with the personalities and everything in which they passed over with. That hasn't changed. So it may be that you never got on with them. It may be that sometimes spirits on the other side will seek an opportunity to come through, and you don't even want to speak to them. You don't want to have anything to do with them sometimes, and that's your right. But they will seek an opportunity, and anybody really seeks an opportunity to come through. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're coming through for me with, and sometimes like I've said before, and this might sound quite harsh, and I've got to maybe find a better way to say it. If you weren't that smart on this side, then I'm telling you now, you ain't that smart on the other side. You don't go over and like, depending on where you're hanging out, and suddenly you become all knowing, all wise, and all loving. Just doesn't happen. Don't forget, you also get people that will come through that have had bad relationships with people in this lifetime, and they'll come through with a more understanding of why that relationship was like that. They come through to sort of, make their apologies, or they come through asking for like forgiveness, so that can happen. But they're not, you do have a choice, and don't think, I'm just putting it out there to anybody, don't think that because somebody comes through that, I'll tell you why. I wasn't even doing a reading one time, I was doing Lightbody, and she spoke about something. I'm pretty sure she spoke about, was it a reading? I can't remember. Anyway, she spoke about something to me, and all of a sudden her husband barged into the energy, literally came into the energy. How he came in was as if he was, I don't know if I've told this story before. He came in
apologizing.
Apologizing, right. Until when it actually came out, he was a nasty piece of work. Do you know what I mean? It was a nasty piece of work, and I had to send him away with a real bee in his bonnet. But, you know, and he came in all slick, all Billy Big Balls. And I had to send him away with little balls.
So
Leave it that alone too.
I'm leaving that alone.
I'm looking forward to the reel. That's all I'm going to say.
Lights indicate Amanda's working beside her bed and Billy Big Balls.
I want to know about your experiences, Kylie. Like, have you had shifty characters too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that have misrepresented themselves to start off with?
Of course, I've done missing persons and worked with police departments in the past, and I've had, people who have done harm to others on this side come through, and we don't want the information from that person. They will subject themselves. They will put themselves in the reading, and we're like, we don't need your energy. We don't want you there. You have to be very clear with your boundaries. So if I have a client that says, I need an answer, I want to talk to someone, I'll be like, do you really want to bring in that energy? Are you ready for that? Because that's a big responsibility to bring in that energy. And if they're like, well, I will bring it in for 5 seconds and then banish it again. Send it. I will even ask, do you want to go the light at that point? Do you want to ascend? And if they say yes, I will ascend them. But, there's got to be boundaries. And I will go bypass them and just go straight to their guide, to the client's guide, and get the message that way. So I'm not bringing in that energy. But you have to set very clear boundaries, because just because they're on the other side and they might be Aunt Gertrude doesn't mean that Auntie is a nice person, or your perpetrator is a nice person that's now enlightened. You get to set those boundaries.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. If I don't want to talk to someone on the other side, I'm not giving them my time. Just not giving them my time. So
I want to add to that. So I think they're like anything in life, you get opportunities for healing. So I do believe that when people pass and they've had certain experiences and maybe the relationship hasn't been so great, they do have the opportunity to evolve throughout that transition and receive healing for themselves. Yeah. So I think it's like anything else, you can experience both things. So for me, I haven't experienced any sort of shifty characters. My experiences have been very, very loving, the type that move you to tears. But I think it also depends on what you work with too, and what you're able to access. The other thing is, I wish I had the book with me, but it was like a Netflix documentary. It was called Allan Kardec, and I'm pretty sure it was set in France, and he was a professor, and this is based on a true story. I want to say late 1800s or not. Yeah, late 1800s, something around that. And all of a sudden he was an academic, and he was interested in mediumship, and he had these women doing automatic writing, and then he would ask all these questions. So he actually sort of started this full study in a way, like of different mediums and asking them questions and all sorts of things. And of course, there were all sorts of social repercussions for the crazy work he was doing, quote unquote. But there are two books. One's called The Spirit's Book. One's called The Medium's Book. And they ask all sorts of questions and get all different mediums to answer in different ways. So it might be trance, speaking, it might be automatic writing and those things. I might be misquoting a few things, but this is the gist of it. And what that sort of spoke to was how, just like in our evolution, there's also a spiritual evolution where there are different levels or different types of spirits, so to speak, on the other side. So, some, it's like as they progress through their journey, some might be quite immature, some might be pranksters, some, but we evolve over time. So, yeah, I do think of it a little bit in that way. That there is the potential for all of it, but my experiences have mostly been really beautiful.
Yeah, okay. Lauren, that's really interesting that you actually say that, because Spirit has shown me that, like on the other side, where they call it going back to school is what they tell me. And then they show me like, I'm at this level right now because I just transitioned over, and now I'm going up levels. Like sometimes I can't come during readings because I'm in school, I'm in progress right now, and we're not able to bring that energy. So
That is
really
so
amazing.
wild, you guys. That is like, I feel like there's people listening to that and their brains like exploding because you're thinking about like the work doesn't stop here in this earth plane existence. The soul is always evolving or growing, or who really know? I mean, nobody really knows the extent of what's actually freaking happening. And to think of like, to think that like even in spirit form, you're just constantly, it's mind blowing. It could,
But everything is never ending.
it's never, that could also be so
Everything is
frustrating.
never ending.
Yeah, it's just
or relaxing. Because if it's like, oh my God, if this literally goes on forever, I cannot be bothered rushing now. Like, seriously, I'm just going to take my time.
But is that an earth plane emotion? Or
no, don't worry. I'm still a striver for a start. So that's just me faking another type of personality that I could be one day kind of thing. But yeah, I know. Endless. It's like you never graduate.
Okay, so having this gift, do you guys ever check in for yourselves? Like, you know, someone who's crossed over, any of you who's like,
it is, I'm gonna go out here and say this. As a medium, it is the hardest thing to connect to the other side for yourself. It is the hardest thing. And I've never, in my decades of doing this, met a medium who can do it effectively.
Wow.
So we walk around looking like we have our shit together because we have infinite information.
Yeah.
No.
We're just as screwed up as everybody.
You can get information for yourself like by other ways. So like with cards and things like that, or connecting to your higher self. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
But it's enough for me to question it. Like, give me an 11.
But you've still got to you've still got to interpret it. You still have to interpret it. And that's the thing. When you so like I don't like reading for people that I know because I know that there are parts that I know. I don't like to do it. I prefer you give me someone I have never seen before. That's great. Because then I just have nothing to work with except for spirit, right?
Do you want to make sure you're not influenced by the information?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So for me, like I shut things down when I was little. I believe I just don't have memory, but I know I always felt very connected. But for me, it was my father passing that really triggered all of this to come back in, right? It's what got me to start remembering and seeking and searching and seeing a lot of mediums and those sorts of things. But when you say, do you use it for yourself? He has visited me in dreams. And there was also one time after he passed away where I fell asleep on the couch and I opened my eyes and he was just standing there. So like I have had things.
Wow.
Yeah, in his pajamas from when he was sick. I opened my eyes and he was standing right there. And I've had lots of dreams with him in it. So and I also, you know, he used to drink strong coffee. So I would smell strong coffee, that sort of thing when it wasn't brewing, you know, those sorts of things. So I had a lot of my senses open up in relation to his passing. That's really got me sort of seeking and searching and starting to do to be mentored and learn how to do it myself. And you know, when you say, can you do it yourself? Like I'll sit here and I'll talk to him, but I'll just be like starting a conversation. Hey, Dad, I'm just going to put this out here, you know. But it's not like I call him in and then sit across from him and have a conversation. But I always know he's around. So, you know, in one of my dreams, it was just the most beautiful scene of like, I think I was sitting there watching a home movie of him pushing me on the swings or something. And that song, What a Wonderful World, was playing. And it was just so beautiful. And I woke up going, oh my God, that was so beautiful. And I was at the shopping center that day and I was in a lingerie shop, you know, buying my bras.
Okay.
And no, but it was like not the sort of place that song would play. And it started playing, right?
Oh.
That song started playing the very next day when I was in the shopping center. I was like, oh my God, hi, Dad. You know, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. So
next used to get into a lingerie shop.
Yeah.
For your dad.
Spirit will communicate with you at any moment that they can when they find that opportunity, right? So then I guess my next thing would be then you kind of have to build your spiritual dictionary or vocabulary with spirit. Like every time I see an apple, it is to represent a teacher or good health or whatever that thing is. And so how do you even begin to, because I feel like that would be like the biggest dictionary.
So can I, so I'll just say, I'll just jump here because I don't have a dictionary. I think for me, if it's mediumship, I think it happens in many different ways for me. So I don't really, because it's not something, like I said before, that I actively seek or actively work in. I don't. But I remember one time when I was working, I opened up my front door, and it's almost as if I got this whoosh of air came in at me, and immediately to my mind came my friend Wendy. And I thought to myself, oh, I haven't seen you at swimming for ages. I thought to myself, you're skiving. Well, I don't swim. It was the kids that used to swim. So they used to get picked for competitions, and we'd all go to certain places to support the kids. And like, but I hadn't seen her for ages. And I just thought to myself, as I opened the door, I thought, oh, Wendy, I thought to myself, like, you've been skiving. You've been missing out on these competitions. I'm going to give you a call. And I got a message later on that day that she had passed away. Literally, I got a text message that day to say to me that she had passed away. So as I opened the front door, she was stood there waiting to tell me that that I'm gone.
You were probably the only one open enough, to pick up on that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, she came to say goodbye. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'll never forget that, because it was that same day. And I felt her as I opened the door. That was it. She was in my head. Yeah. So, and she was gone. Very interesting.
I don't even know how to continue that. That is like, wow.
Yeah. So, and like my husband, when I knew him, I think a year into when his dad passed, and his dad was in hospital when he passed. And I remember the day he passed, I remember speaking to my husband on the phone, and I didn't know how to tell him. That I think you need to say everything you need to say to your dad. You need to and you need to be able to let him go. And I think literally hours after he spoke to me that day, his dad passed. He left the hospital when his dad passed. But I knew I hadn't even met his dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But things like that. So that way, and the question is that I was going to ask, just before you was going to ask, so he's saying, do we really understand what the term medium means? Is it, because it could be one or two things, is it that you're the middleman, or is it that it's as in that's the medium in which we communicate with the other side? Is that what it means? I've never really checked, and maybe I should have done my homework, but
maybe it's
we
both.
use the term medium and mediumship. What does it really mean? Does it mean both, or does it mean just how we communicate? Because I think all of us are always communicating. It just depends on how. I think for most of us, if somebody close to us passes, there's a feeling, there's some sort of something that happens. And if you're open enough, you recognize that that's the person that they're going. You can recognize their signature, or you can literally see it, that they're going,
Yeah, I think everyone, just like you're saying, Amanda, everyone has the ability. It's just how much do you tap into it, right? How much are you aware, and can you sense?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, everyone's busy in their life. Like we're all busy, and we're like constantly go, go, go. But what if we did just take that break, or just took 10 minutes a day just to sit in our senses? Like, if you think about it, you could become a little bit more, quote unquote, sensitive, or just be able to feel, right? Because as mediums, that's what we're using. We're using our senses to feel.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's getting quite enough to be able to discern it. When you were saying before, Yiannah, about the dictionary, Tyler Henry on Instagram recently posted he drew them all, and I was like, that is so cool. That is not how I see things, but I thought that was amazing. I took screenshots. I'm like, maybe I can ask Spirit.
What did he do? What was
he posted photos of, like, he drew all of his symbols that he receives over the years. So it's brilliant. It's on Instagram. It's on
Yeah.
his channel. And I was like, that's amazing. But like, that's also not how I really receive things. So for me, I get a lot of visuals. So when I was doing, there was one time where someone had had a heart attack. I literally saw like thunder in their heart. So I was like, oh, that must be a heart attack. That's an electric thing. For someone else where they had a blood clot, it was like, I saw a line and then like a circle and then an end. So like
Whoa.
figure that out, right?
Right.
So it's not always like, so that's why it's about practicing and doing as much as possible and sort of sitting with things and testing it out really. So, I remember my very first practice session I did on a girlfriend. And I rang her and I was like, so I see you here and I see your family over here and I can see a line here. She said, yeah, I'm not speaking to them at the moment. I was like, okay, cool. That's what that means. Thank you. So it's really, I always had the perception and I'm sure there are people like this, that mediumship is like, they've just got the information and it's super easy. It's actually like a lot of work to hone the craft. If you're someone who's like me and develop it, it's a lot of work. I have huge respect for those people. Yeah. It's just like anything. You want to be brilliant at anything in life, you work at it, right?
Yeah.
And they put a lot of effort. They've got to take care of themselves. You've got to be hydrated, you need to be well rested and you need those senses to be open. So, I will sometimes clairaudiently, and then that's subjective clairaudience. Like Kai said, it's in my head. I might get a word, but most of the time I get pictures and feelings.
Yeah. So I'm going to out myself a little bit here. I don't think I've ever told anybody this, but in 2018 or 2019, I think we did this for months. Me and a girlfriend, we went to this mediumship class. It was like every Monday night or something. And I remember on our first day, we're like, oh, let's just go and see what it's about. We'll watch people like do this craft, and we get in and the instructor, she's like, I think there was like 20 of us in the class. She goes, okay, everybody line up like one, put your chair so you're facing each other and you're going to give each other a message. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, this is like my first time. I've never done this before. And she goes, yeah, I know. Let's go. You're going to deliver a message. I'm like, wow. I don't think you realize what's happening. And so anyway, long story short, I'm sitting there sweating because I'm like, I have to perform now with something I've never tapped into. And she goes, listen, just daydream, go into a daydream and see what comes in for you. And so what I actually saw it was twofold. At first I saw like this like old Mustang convertible with this golden retriever. And then I saw something that was playing out for me. So my neighbor had a daughter who had addiction issues and she was really struggling. And then it was really hard for the mother to take care of her. She was a grown adult. And it was one of those where the mother had to put separation between her and her daughter. And I'm like, why am I seeing this? So I had to relay this information to the woman. Long story short, it was the same exact situation between her and her good friend where she knew like he was having those issues. She had to create that separation and her dad had that Mustang. So I was like, oh my God, this is great. Like,
that's it though. You did it.
Okay.
Natural.
Okay. In that moment. Right. And then I remember it was a few weeks later, we went into another daydream. It was just us by ourselves. And the whole entire time I get nothing. And I know she's about to wrap us up to see what we get. And all of a sudden I see this little girl. Actually, I'm in this basement and it's white and it's like these like flickering lights. And there's this little girl who is probably 3, 4, 5 years old. And she's in white and she's got blood on her. Mm. And she's not saying anything to me. She's just sitting like in the back of the basement. And I get this knowing in my mind that she was harmed and that's how she died. And she was kind of just stuck there and she needed like my help. And I remember like then we were guided out and I was like, what the heck? Now I have to share this story. I realized that she needed help. And so the instructor helped me get back in and we did help the little girl kind of like cross over, if you will, And then I remember thinking to myself, oh, if this is like what this work is going to mean for me, like I want nothing to do with it because it was so horrific that it really, really, like, it hurt me at a very deep level. And so I was like, I cannot do that. And I don't know if I ever went back because it was too much, you know? And then, of course, like, it's the whole, like, well, you got to set your boundaries. Well, back then, I didn't even know I was able to do what I was able to do or really trust the thing that I was seeing.
Right.
But I was just like, it was too much.
Therein lies the truth that you do have it.
Well,
you do have to get the sight.
You know, when Yiannah was saying that at the beginning of the show, I was like, yeah, I may have it, Yiannah, but after this show, I may be very avoidant at activating those gifts if indeed I do have them. And frankly, ladies, that's where I am at the moment. Like, all sounds lovely and interesting, but not that interesting that I think I want it. Like, it sounds really difficult. It sounds messy. It sounds like you would always be coming from the best of intentions, but sometimes that's not how it goes. It really does sound like it can make things much more complicated, just from the outside, just reflecting that back to you.
I don't think it makes things complicated for me. I think it's really about what are you here to do? And if that's not your thing, then there are other people that it is their thing and they do it well. Yeah. You know, and
believe me, I'd like to go to see a medium. I just don't want to be one. Yeah, right. Like I'm glad
that's why I say that's how I work. I'm not, although I can do that and I can see it comes up. I don't really, like I said, I don't really want to be talking to them, and I don't really want them to find me. That's that simple. You know, I just don't, and as well because I think. It's a lot of work because I think that, and what I've seen and heard from, say, like my sister and family members, they don't really, you've got to have strong boundaries because they don't have none. They don't have none. They do not care. Like you said, sitting on your bed. I said sitting on your bed. They love to come inside your bedroom. I don't know why they don't want to find you in the kitchen or sitting in the living room or the lounge.
Because you're too busy there.
No. Watching Housewives.
You know what I mean? That's they're right. In the bedroom, they're in the bathroom.
Because you're relaxed.
So you're all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I went grocery shopping one time and there I was just merrily going down with my cart. And all of a sudden I hear someone, I'm like looking around. Nope. And it was a husband who had passed. And so I run into someone that I had done a training with like 4 years ago. And I'm like, oh, hello. And then I hear him say, that's her. Give her a reading. That's her. Give her a reading. I'm like, I'm in the middle of the grocery store right now, you know, just picking up some carrots and celery. And he was so insistent because usually I never do that because I have very strong boundaries, but he barreled right through.
Yeah.
And I gave the reading and she's like, right before I left today for the grocery store, I asked him to come through in any sign in any way possible. So he was just so insistent. And at that moment, I was just like, no, but I delivered the message. And it may have been a little inconvenient to have her sobbing in the middle of the aisle, like with people and neighbors coming down, like what's going on? But it was so healing for her at the same time, you know? And trust me, I've questioned this up and down where I'm like, do I want this gift? Do I even want to pursue it? Because it's a lot of responsibility to hold for some people.
Yeah. And people hold on to the information as somebody who has received countless readings. Like you hold on to the information and it's very much like, as even though it's not meant to be, it is like a guide. It influences how you move in life. You know, maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. Maybe that's how it was supposed to be in my life. You know, I received big information where I was like, okay, this is the direction. This is the road to follow. And it didn't always pan out. Right. And I listen, this is not I'm very grateful for that information. And I feel very grateful for the life that I have, even through all the shit that I've had to go through, because that's when you learn the most. Right. But there are times where I think I've said it privately to you guys, like, why am I getting this information if this is not the information of how it's going to work out? But sometimes, as we know, the information comes through because it needs to guide you to a specific space, place,
experience.
Right.
But also it is about using your discernment too, because this is the thing. And for me, you know, going through and learning about this craft and, trying to, really integrate it into, something beautiful that I can share with people, I realized that they are just people. They're just people. It's like doctors. They're just people. Sometimes they have a bad day. We might interpret something in a way that is not the way it was intended. So I also think it is about the way the message is delivered, and the one thing that I've been taught is give what you get. So I will say, this is what I'm seeing. What does that mean for you? It feels like this. Does that make sense? I'm not going to be like this and this and this and this and tell you. I sort of offer it and see what they come back with, if that makes sense. So I do think it's in the way it is delivered, and I do think it is up to all of us. It's our responsibility to be discerning with the information we receive. I have seen many practitioners in my life. I've seen all sorts of people, and I always take what I believe is what I need. And the other things, I know about them. They're in the bank, but they don't rule what I do.
Right. Yeah, listen, that's a lesson I had to learn, right? Because like in my mind, I'm like, if spirit tells me to follow a certain thing, I'm going to not obey spirit, but I'm going to listen to spirit, right? That's always been, now that's shifting for me, right? But also what's really funny is there's a lot of responsibility to the person receiving the message, because you may say something one way and I could interpret it a different, I could be like, okay, for example, this is an example my teacher always uses where she goes, I was giving a reading and this woman was asking about this relationship she was in. And I was saying, you know what, this doesn't feel like a forever, but there's so many experiences, so many things for you guys to go through together. Like, give it time, but there's somebody else. And she goes, at the end of the session, I saw the woman's notes and she had written, break up with him. And she's like, that's not what I said. What I said was, there's more time, but there's, so it's so true. You hear what you want to hear. That's just a fact. So it's so funny how that,
and it's the current probable timeline. Yiannah, sorry, I'm not saying sorry, but it's the current probable timeline. So that is what you're reading, the current probable timeline, and that can change. All right. So, if a psychic or a medium told me something and it didn't happen, it doesn't necessarily mean that that was wrong. Things have changed as well.
Yeah. Or if they tell me something that I don't like, then I'm
then I'm changing it, she says.
I'm changing it.
I like that. Yeah, we should never give our power away, right? Like, period. You should never give your power away to anyone because it's your power.
Oh, yeah. Totally. I think that's a lesson learned from many people, myself included, so while I still love to continue like to receive messages and if you're here, come in. That's my grandma. That's just me always being like, oh my God, my friends are mediums. Yes. Anytime she's around, just let her come through. But it is very much, I had to learn to not allow that to drive me or to drive decisions or to affect my emotions, which as an emotional being, that's very hard to do, but you have to get, some people are really good with that. Like, I feel like Kylie and Amanda and you guys are really good with your boundaries. Rachel, you probably are too, where I feel like more, Lauren and I, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, we're more like,
we're a little bit more floating in the breeze. I know.
Yeah, but I think for me, it's more because I'm just a bit, I don't need anything frightening me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get real mad if I have to now start doing clearing work in the middle of the night, because now I'm pissed.
But speaking of that, Amanda, I actually had a session with a practitioner that was like a healing session, and they're like, how do you get everything done with all of these spirits around you? And I was like, what spirits? Like, it was like literally like, no, but it was like literally like maybe Kylie put it there, I don't know, but like it was literally like I had walls up, or it was like protection in, or I don't know, blocking it out or whatever. And I'm like, what do you mean all these spirits? I've got spirits. I want to talk to spirits. But like they were literally like, how do you do anything with all these spirits? I'm like, I had no idea. So I feel like there. Yeah, I had no idea. So
And they're just waiting for a
I don't
moment to
know.
slip in, like I said, just waiting for a
Well,
crack to get through.
no, but I was just wondering if there was a point when I was younger or whatever, whether it was when I met Kylie and it's like, oh, all my shields go up. But whether unconsciously I created something to that effect, that is that powerful that I didn't even know it existed in a way,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not sure
okay,
about that
so
one.
then are we all born having these gifts, right? Are we, so they're technically not gifts because they're inherent, right? Like we're born being able to tap in these kind of ways. And then at some point, most of us shut them down, right? So then
Yeah.
somebody who wants to get into mediumship, like how do you even begin? Like what's a really good baby step to get you into that space?
For me, the number one thing I tell people, you need to learn to quiet your mind and determine whether it is your voice or an external voice. And that can take years to perfect. That's the number one thing I tell people. So if you want to go down this path, you need to understand the difference between your voice and an external voice. Quiet the mind.
What does
Yeah, there's a
quiet
lot
the
of
mind
discernment.
mean?
Right.
Well,
Sounds like a lot of meditation to me.
That's it.
Well, meditation, but also, healing work if that is needed. Like for me, I feel like I really needed a lot of that before I was able, because Yiannah, like you said, like we're the feely types, like we're feeling everything. And I had trouble even knowing what I was because I feel like I blended into everything else. So it's really knowing your energy, right? So, doing the healing work, quietening the mind, like Kylie said, meditation, there are lots of things you can do. But it's knowing your energy. Like you have to know your energy. And then you can start discerning what the other energies are.
Yeah.
Okay, listen.
I think there's also things like learning, like probably going and, um, maybe going and doing training so that you can learn and understand the rules and the boundaries and the things that can happen, I think. I mean, like you don't always have to, but I think sometimes it's a good idea, depending on what you're like, who you are, to just know how to create. A lot of people don't know how to create those proper boundaries, to create the proper protection, because because like I said, when you open up, it's not just, all the nice sugary, honey people coming in and everything, coming in. Everybody's coming in because they see the door, they see it crack open, they see the light, and they're heading towards it. And so, it's got to be, and like I said, they can come in, some people can come in very aggressively. Some people come in very nicely. Some people, they're standing way in the back and they're not really coming forward. There's all of these kind of things. So sometimes it's just always good to get an understanding about the experience, what it can look like, what it can feel like. And then you begin to learn and hone your own craft and your own skills. How do you really perceive the other side? How do you? Because we're all very, very different.
I actually dreamt one night about a woman who said, I'm here to help you. And that is my mediumship mentor, right? So then the next day I got up and I Googled mediumship mentor until I found the picture of the woman that was in my dreams, right?
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was
crazy. That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I
she's
love this about you.
So a mentor is brilliant. Well, actually, I do the research, absolutely. A mentor is brilliant because they've been through so many things and they can share a lot with you and they can guide you through. It was the confidence I developed throughout that process, and I'm still doing my mentoring, is just, it's priceless. It's just worth so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I ask a question in my head and I get this immediate answer and I'm like, that's just you answering the answer you want to give.
No.
It comes in so fast and it's always aligned with what I wanted to be. Always. So I'm like, I don't need to practice. I can't trust this yet. I really need to practice it because it could be like a ridiculous question. And I hear this like big yes. And I'm like, that should not be a yes. Like that's just, yeah. So that is why I do not practice mediumship, but I do get information, but not from, I get knowings, right? Which I don't know if I think that's just intuition, right? It's a knowing. It's not like, God, I would love to develop the gift just to be able to just talk to my grandma all the time. And not I need to know about my future. Just to like have conversations with her. And actually, a lot of the really big mediums that that's how they started. They're like, I just wanted to talk to my grandfather or my parent that crossed over, and it blew and blossomed into this huge, beautiful gift.
Do you talk to your grandmother though? Like, do you talk to her?
I do. Listen.
Yeah, good.
Grandma's always with me, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. For some reason, what came through me then was that
lovely.
you should ask your grandmother cooking things because you won't know the answer. Ask her about specific things that she used to cook and how she used to do it, and see if you get the information.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
When my son was little and my dad had passed, he was old enough to sit in the front seat, but I wouldn't let him sit in the front seat because I was like, that's where dad sits, right? It was like my dad was always in the car with me. It was a feeling that I had, but then I actually had someone confirm it in a reading. So dad's in the car with you. I'm like, yeah.
It's like
sorry, that is where Pepe sits.
Right. It's like when Amanda's sister was like, you can't sit there in the bus. Don't you see the people there? And you're like, there is nobody there.
Nobody sat there. Yeah. That was her. And she saw my granddad. I think I told you guys, she saw my granddad when she was young, really just started talking, and she was in the back room. The door was closed, and I went to the back room, and I could hear her talking, yakking away, talking. And I went and got my mum, and we were standing at the back room door, listening to her just talking. And then the door opened up and she came out. My mum said to her, who are you talking to? And so she goes, oh, granddad. And, she would have been about, I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4. And maybe about 3 or 4. And she said, granddad. And we said, well, which granddad? Who? And so she goes, your dad. She said to my mum, your dad. And she goes, well, how do you know that? And so she goes, well, he's got 2 big dogs with him. Now, I didn't know. And so I looked at my mum and I said, you had dogs? And my mum said, yeah, we had 2 big dogs. She named the dogs that used to live underneath the house, because back in like Ghana, they never really had allowed animals into the house. They lived under the house. And she said, so she's talking to granddad. Yeah. And that confirmed it, the two dogs. And then she just trotted off. She just trotted off past us like it was an everyday thing. And that's the same sister who was talking to my granddad. And throughout the years, my granddad used to always be around her. I remember one time sitting in the dining room and we were having a chat. It was her, my mum, and me. And I suddenly said, oh my God, I said, can you smell that cigarette smoke? It just came like that. And my mum just went, yes, that's my dad. He's around Abigail. He's always around her. And it was the strangest thing. And I mean, I just accepted it because it was so weird how the cigarette smoke just came and it went. It just came and it went like that. And it was just my granddad letting us know that he was around. You know what I mean? I thought, you bitch, you get to see granddad.
Well, hey, you don't want to talk to anyone from over there, Amanda. So he was respecting your wishes.
You know what I mean?
That reminds me of Kylie, you saying that when you talk to spirit and someone's presenting themselves as, a loved one crossover, you ask for that, give me that specific detail that only relates to you, that person receiving the message would know.
Right. So growing up in Australia, I was taught the British mediumship way of evidential. What's the word?
Evidential.
Evidential. Yes. See,
walking dictionary. Here I am.
I know. There you go. Put it in my back pocket. Evidential mediumship. And so I've had cases when I was first starting out, and this is why it's really important to do your research before you connect to a medium. It's so important because a spirit can present itself as grandma.
Yep.
And then you start getting messages. And then those people, whoever your client is, believing that. And then at the end of then they morph into something else. So they can disguise themselves as your loved
Big
one.
bad
They
wolf.
can hide. Yeah. So I'm like, I need hard evidence. So I connect on all senses. So I can see, hear, taste, feel, touch. I can hear it all, right? Do it all. And so I need confirmation. So I'll get an image, I'll get a voice, I'll get words, and I will relay that. And then if that client doesn't resonate with that person, I'm like, peace out, get out, next person in line. Because I don't want to give someone, oh, you're going to totally marry Mark and you're going to have 2 children. And it's some bozo that's just wants to come in and be a big boy and
I
is
told
pretending
you
to be
about the Billy
grandma.
Big Balls.
That Billy Big Balls coming on in. Not today, big balls. You know, you have to be so it is fun, don't get me wrong, but it is such a serious craft and it has such
It is.
responsibility with
Very.
it. And you can, you know, people can use it to harm others too. You know what I mean? Like there is a fine line between all this. It's a gift, it can be a curse and a blessing. And you just have to use such discernment when you come to deciding who you're going to use. That's all I can say.
Discernment, consciousness, and
Everything.
intention.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and integrity as the medium.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I can
absolutely.
only give you specifically what I get, and I need to make sure it's as pure as possible, because as stated before, people take it to heart. And
Right.
that woman could go and marry Mark and push for those 2 kids, and you know, it could blow up, whatever. The point
Right.
is, you know,
Right. It
yeah.
can shape, like I had everyone knows who Sylvia Brown is, right?
Yeah.
No.
I do.
Yeah. Okay. So
Oh,
it's
famous
She's
medium.
a medium.
famous
Okay.
medium.
Yeah,
So
famous psychic
I
medium.
managed to get an appointment with her in a hotel room in Australia. So I'm
Ooh.
sitting at a Marriott in Brisbane, across in her suite with Sylvia Brown. This was going back in the early 2000s, right? And I've paid a ton of money, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm at the cusp of deciding what I'm going to do. Am I going to America? Or am I staying in Australia? I've got all this life set up, blah, blah, blah. That woman told me everything that was incorrect. She's like, you will not make it to America. You have to go through Dubai and then Canada because there's going to be a visa problem. Your man is cheating on you. And then I was like, oh, okay. So I was defeated. And then something within me was like,
That's
no,
mad.
I reject this. And guess what? Guess your girl got her visa first within 3 weeks. And then I was in America and I
Still
was
happily
married
married.
22 years. No cheating. Right? So you have to make a decision. Please don't base your future on messages. You have
And
free
everyone
will.
can have a bad day too.
Wasn't there some discrepancies though about Sylvia Brown? I think that came out later
I don't know.
on.
Oh, were
but
there?
I
It
was
huge.
just like, girlfriend, I don't know if you're having a bad day or this is how you roll, but I could not believe everything was not just 1 or 2 things. Everything was inaccurate. My parents had passed. No, my parents were still alive. Who are you connecting to on the other side, right? So you have to, bless her, but but I'm just saying,
Do you know, it's funny. My sister is meticulous, like she does mediumship, right? And so she does mediumship, psychic art, and all that stuff. She is meticulous about her stuff, and she would sometimes even talk about, say, other mediums. Like she doesn't like people just saying nonsense and then saying, well, you hold that. I'm going to give it to you to hold. I'm going to give that to you to hold, because she'll say, what am I supposed to hold what?
Right.
What am I supposed to be holding? Well, why am I holding it? Who am I holding it for? Do you know what I mean?
Big balls.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you're holding. Because what do you do with that? Right.
What do you do with that? Do you know what I mean? So people would just give out a whole load of information, and if you don't connect a bit, they'll tell you, "Oh, you just hold that." You know what I mean? I'm giving you that to hold. You go home and think about it. It's too bloody late, isn't it?
Right.
But also, there's no time over there, right? So there is no time over there. So one thing I can say though, there is a psychic medium I probably see once a year since when Dad was sick till now. And so I have like notebooks full of things, and some things have actually happened years later that are not things that I needed to make a decision to make happen, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So it's quite interesting because it is timeless as well. So like, but the thing is, what I did was I wrote it down, I forgot about it, and every now and then I read through my book and said, oh, that happened. Oh, wow. But it's not like I then make my decisions based on that. So again, you have a responsibility as the person attending the session to be conscious with what you do with it, and don't hold it.
Yeah, but don't hold it. But I don't know how much mediumship gives you of the future, because I don't know how much they actually have access in terms of the ones that have passed to your future. What I understand is that they usually come through with messages to sort of give you peace in your heart, to say, you know, thanks for the yellow flowers that you brought, and you know what I mean. And I know that you come to the every day, or they come through with confirmation. I thought a lot of this work, mediumship, was about confirmation that, you know, that there's life after death, that there is some sort of sustainability.
That's
about
true.
Spirit and that after death. But I don't think that they, for the most part, they're coming through to tell you about your future.
That's really the psychic. Well, I'll jump in, because all
psychic.
Yeah, but all mediums are psychic. So usually there's psychic information in there. I guess it depends where it's coming from, Kylie.
Yeah. So, for example, you know, I pick up on the energy of the moment. So if I see, like, I will feel like a business energy, and I'm like, do you run a small business? Well, maybe I run something on the side, but I'm working full time. Well, your energy right now is really focused on this business, and I see an image of you in like 3 years' time doing this. Or if you're struggling with having a child, okay, we're going to look at, I don't see anything energetic. Please go see a medical professional. But if all goes according to plan, in this particular energy of this moment, I see a date of this date. But that's of
psychic.
That moment. That is psychic. But the thing for me is that, like, in my mind, psychic is just basically knowing.
Yeah.
But for me, it's presented like a mediumship, like it's an actual, like it's that whole element, that density, that imagery. Like I'm in that moment 3 years from now with you doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But I wouldn't have said that was medium.
Yeah, because that's a loved one. It's not a loved one.
Yeah, that's not a loved one, or somebody that's passed. That's you tapping into future lives, or that's you tapping into
a timeline.
And that's very possible. That is very possible. Yeah.
And now I'm starting to question things, because Kylie, as you say that's how it presents. But then sometimes as I'm doing that, I'll have a loved one say, I really want you to lean into that, right?
That's exactly it. Right. There is an element of that loved one coming in, confirming. So to me, yes, it might be psychic, but to me, it feels like it's definitely coming from, it's being fed through that loved one.
Oh, but could it not be that's your ability? Because that's your ability, and the loved one is there as a bystander, confirming it, or they may confirming it, or they may just be there saying, I like the field of that. I always wanted
confirming what came up for me.
But what spurs that imagery? Where does that come from? What triggers it? To me, it's the loved one triggering that for me, versus me sitting in the client's energy.
Right. It's spirit bringing in that information.
To me, that's what it feels like. But it could be, I could be very much operating from a very different place than Amanda is.
Or multiple places, like I think it's like all of the senses as well. It's like sometimes they blend, and, what is one and what is the other. And it's like they're all working together, and it's like you are so many things. So there might be a bit of this and a bit of that. It could all be true.
We don't know. Go with it.
Yeah, because
Amanda's not convinced.
I think, no.
I'm challenging Amanda.
I think there's all different ways.
I know. Where's the popcorn?
Well, listen, I'm very much the kind of person of don't give away your power.
Yeah.
Don't give away your power.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that that is part of your gift, with the ability to see. That's part of your psychic intuitive ability, that you can see that. It doesn't mean that you don't have, that you also have loved ones that will come in and that they're there as well. So you got, in a sense, like, you know, it's like in, what is it, acting, singing and dancing, isn't it? You're probably what they call a triple threat. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we know that.
Well, that makes
Yeah.
sense. You see what I'm
Do you want me to
saying,
get up and start
Kylie?
I'm not even sure triple's
Oh, it went
enough.
blurry. Okay.
Yeah.
You know?
So, and I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, that's what I think that is. That's, I truly, I think that's what that is.
Mm.
Cool.
I love it.
Well, there are a lot of, you know, yes, spirit has to come in, you know, for some of this, but also you have to be able to reach it and be able to get to that level and bring it all in with your senses. So there is so much talent and gift in it.
So hi, can I ask you, is the work that you do?
I do it on the side. So my day job, I'm an analyst, completely different part of the brain. And at night, I do all the fun stuff like this.
Wow. Okay. So when your messages come in for people in general, what are they saying? Is it confirmation of life after death, or is it that, you know, you need to stop being late in the morning and catch the trains on time, otherwise you're going to get fired, kind of thing? I don't know why I gave that example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoever's listening to this, get the earlier train.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about the time I did miss a train, and I like went up the stairs and my shoe fell off and went flying and hit some guy in the head in the back.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, I have your shoe. I'm like, thanks. Like, and I missed my train. So that's what was going through my head as you were saying
Wow.
that.
See, there you go.
Yeah. Way to tap in, Amanda.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
So
what comes
for
through?
me, it's a lot of closure that
Yeah.
I've been able to bring in healing. And it's
Beautiful.
more humorous than anything. Like they try to lighten up the mood with the closing and say, like, it's okay. Like you need to move on and live on, and you're alive still, and let's make a party of it. So it's just a lot of closure, I would say.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And as someone who's received hi, I don't think I've received a reading from you where I haven't cried. And so thank you for that. Because I have
Yes.
major healing from, I think we've had two unofficial sessions that just kind of like, you know, and I will say the information that comes through and the loved one that it comes through is very much what is needed in the moment. It's not always what you want to hear, but it's what is needed in the moment. And it has brought, you know, it brings lots of healing and love. And what's interesting is, you know, I always go to my grandma, you know, I talk about my grandma, but people are always like, well, your grandfather is always here too. And I feel so guilty because I never go to him. I feel like an asshole. But anyway, I love you, Papu. But
you know, he wouldn't be thinking that. It's all right.
I know he knows. But yeah, receiving a clairvoyant reading, a mediumship reading, there's so much healing that can come with it. It's just, what are your intentions? Are you coming because you want to know like when you're going to get your next paycheck, or like, you know what I'm saying? Or are you coming because you really want to know things that will help shift life for you, right? So it's your intention. And we know the healing doesn't come from anybody except you being into that space. And that intention is going to set the tone for the entire reading. So for all of you who have this beautiful gift, what a true gift it is to be able to offer to other people, because it can heal in so many ways. And I think a lot of people are searching for that. And when you actually feel that and you heal that, it can transform your life.
Beautiful.
So
love that.
Yeah. Okay, so on that beautiful note, Kylie, you got some cards for us.
I did. So I want to give a shout out. So I have my go-tos, but Moonology, Yasmin Boland. So these are pretty simple, and this is no BS. I gave you guys a bit of a sneak peek earlier. Changes. So if you are here, made it through all this time and got to the end of this podcast, we've got some changes coming on, and strength. So strength and changes. I'm not going to read into it.
Beautiful.
Just let it resonate.
Strength to get through the changes, and changes
right.
will bring you strength.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. There
Thank
we
you,
go.
Look at
Laura.
that. With some fairly big balls.
Hi.
Keep him away from Amanda.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you let our listeners know where they can reach you?
Yeah, you can reach me at honestlyheal.com, or honestlyheal is what do they call it on Instagram? Your handle.
Your handle.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not on it very often. I've made comebacks about 10 times now, and then I stopped after that. So you can find me there.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you, everybody. This concludes our episode. If you're interested in booking a reading, a healing, and guided meditation session, or a light body activation, or simply want to say hello, head on over to yoursoulwisdomshow.com. We thank you for allowing us to create this beautiful space, and we hope to see you next time. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.